Pleasure to be here at Canada's largest port. More than $1 billion of goods move through this port every single day. And in fact, when you look at the capacity of Port of Vancouver, it's bigger than the capacity of the next 5 biggest ports in Canada combined. But within the next decade, it's not going to be enough. And it's certainly not going to be enough if we're going to grow this economy, become stronger, more independent, more diversified, trade more with Asia and other parts of the world, which is what our intentions to do. So we're looking through the Major Projects Office at expanding this port. But one of the things, if you expand the port, everything's connected. So expanding the port requires increasing the capacity and the efficiency of our rail system. It also means working to enhance some of our exports of energy and others. And we have tremendous opportunities in order to do that. But in order to seize those opportunities, and let's just put it in perspective, the federal government is looking to invest about $10 billion, more than $10 billion, to help expand the port, grow our exports away from the United States by more than 50%, create over 17,000 jobs, 18,000 jobs in the construction of that, another 17,000 jobs full-time in the operation of that additional capacity. And that's not counting all the businesses and the knock-on effects. In fact, I was at a canola farm yesterday just north of Innisfail in Alberta, where they will get the benefit of this expanded capacity as we expand agricultural exports as well as products and others.
$10 billion. Not a press release, not a pledge for some future government to sort out, an active federal investment, announced in person, standing at the physical location where it's happening, and the number that should stop you, growing non-U.S. exports by more than 50%. That's not a rounding error in a trade strategy. That's a country rebuilding the plumbing of its own economy so it stops needing one customer as badly as it used to. Some context most viewers won't have. Port of Vancouver already handles more cargo capacity than Canada's next 5 largest ports combined. It's not a bottleneck because it's failings. It's a bottleneck because it's already the biggest thing Canada has. And even that isn't going to be enough within a decade if Canada is serious about trading more with Asia and diversifying away from the U.S. Carney isn't describing a fix. He's describing a ceiling Canada is about to hit, and choosing to hit it on purpose, on Canada's own terms, ahead of time. 18,000 construction jobs to build the expansion, another 17,000 permanent full-time jobs once it's running. That's 35,000 jobs tied directly to one infrastructure project. And Carney was careful to point out that figure doesn't even count the ripple effects on businesses that depend on port capacity, like the canola farm he mentioned visiting the day before in Alberta. A bigger port doesn't just move more containers. It changes what's economically viable to grow, mine, and manufacture hundreds of kilometers away from the coast.
And that's why we're working with the Musqueam Nation. We're working with Tsawwassen First Nation. We're working with the Squamish First Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation. This is unceded territory and traditional lands. There are treaty rights from the First Nations, and we need to work in a way that is building inclusively with Indigenous partners, sharing in the economic benefits, ensuring that the incredible natural resources we have, heritage, patrimony, is not just preserved but enhanced. So the federal government has been investing hundreds of millions of dollars to protect our whales, including the southern resident killer whales just off there. Hundreds of millions of dollars coming to with a part of the Pacific salmon strategy. $3.5 billion for our broader ocean protection strategy. But as important is working directly with First Nations who are managing these habitats, respecting their traditional rights, and creating economic opportunity for them. So that means housing. That means fully participating in the expansions here. It also means developing new ways of the partnerships between us. And I'd like to thank Chief Laura Cassidy of the Tsawwassen First Nation for being here. We can see her home. We can see Tsawwassen if you look over your shoulders just there. And I'd also like to thank Chief Wayne Sparrow of the Musqueam for being here. And of course, full respect to the other leaders of the other First Nations that we've been meeting with in discussions of how to move this forward together. It is a tremendous opportunity to build Canada strong, to build Canada sustainable, to make our country more independent, more resilient, and to do it in the right way, to do it inclusively, to do it in solidarity with those workers over there, creating good union jobs, tens of thousands of good union jobs, not just here but across the country.
Notice what Carney refused to skip past. 4 separate First Nations named specifically on unceded territory, with treaty rights he explicitly acknowledged rather than glossed over. Hundreds of millions of dollars for killer whale protection and the Pacific salmon strategy, plus $3.5 billion for ocean protection more broadly. Money attached to a project that, on paper, is about container capacity and rail lines. That's not a footnote added for optics. It's Carney betting that the only version of this expansion that actually gets built is the one that doesn't repeat the fights over land and water rights that have stalled infrastructure projects in this country for decades. $10 billion, 35,000 jobs, 4 First Nations partnerships, and a direct answer to a trade war built on the assumption Canada has nowhere else to sell its goods. This is what it looks like when a country stops reacting to pressure and starts building its way out of it. Do you think this kind of infrastructure spending actually reduces Canada's dependence on the U.S., or is 50% growth in non-U.S. exports an unrealistic target? Subscribe to Unbiased Canada, hit like, and let us know in the comments.